When I sat my GCSEs, this was what I got. Now, how did you do this? I hear you asking. Well, I can exclusively reveal the secret to getting all 8s and 9s in your GCSEs. Just revise. I'm kidding, but in all seriousness, getting 9s is not as hard as you might think. Although you'll need to work hard, you won't need to be waking up at 4 AM and grinding for 16 hours a day. And if you're lucky enough to have friends, you can still have a social life. No, how much revision you do is not what's important. What's more important than how much you do is what you do and how you do it. I wanted to begin this guide by offering some general advice about how you should approach revision. You've probably been told a million times by your teachers to work harder or revise more in order to improve your grades. However, your teachers are wrong. Yes, that's right, they're wrong. Simply working harder with nothing else is totally useless, and without direction you'll just be wasting time. Instead of hard work, you should be doing what I like to call focused work. Let me give you an example. Alice and Bob are both sitting the same biology exam tomorrow. Alice has spent 16 hours revising and her revision looks like this. While Alice was carefully colouring in the aorta in orange, Bob was playing Warzone with his mates. He ended up revising 2 hours that day. However, he revised in a focused way. Bob looked through the specification and copied and pasted every weak topic he found into a Word document. After doing this, he wrote concise notes on all of them and read over those notes until he was comfortable that he understood them. Bob's revision looks like this. Now the next day, they both sat the test. Alice got a 5, with most of her marks coming from the questions relating to the different sections of the heart. Bob got an 8, very close to a 9. Why did Bob do better? Because his revision was focused. He didn't bother with irrelevant stuff like artistic illustrations and using different colours, just sticking to the bullet points and concise description. If Bob had revised 3 hours instead of 2, he would almost certainly have gotten a 9. Now you don't have to do bullet points if you don't want to. You could do flashcards, you could do mind maps. Whatever you do, make sure it's focused. If an action does not aid your learning, it should not be done. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on to the subject-specific advice.
2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
If you want to get an 8 or a 9 in maths, my main advice is to practice, practice, practice. I know some of you watching this will find maths easy as hell, and some of you will hate it. This does not matter if you practice it enough. Anybody, yes, anybody, with enough practice will get at least an 8 in maths. mathsgenie.co.uk and physicsandmathstutor.com are both great websites for GCSE maths with lots of resources including topic tests and past papers. I found that the topic tests specifically are really great for focused learning, as you can target weak areas while ignoring the areas you're already good at.
I'm sorry to hear that your grandma passed away. I actually am like, obviously I'm gonna be upset about that, innit? And then you know the only thing.
Most people I know hate GCSE English language. I also hated it at first, and it took me a while before I got it. But once I understood the way it was marked, it became very easy. You see, the way I beat English language was by learning the formula for each question. I studied the mark scheme extensively, and when writing my responses, made sure that I checked every criteria to hit the top band, while also ensuring that my response wasn't too formulaic. With practice, my technique became more and more refined, and it got to the point where I immediately knew how I would structure my answer for each question before I even set foot into the exam hall. All I'd do in the exam was find the right sections of the text to analyse. It doesn't matter how you choose to structure your answer, as long as you hit all the points on the mark scheme, you will get a top score for that question. Find a structure that works for you. As for the creative writing section, there are 2 ways you can approach this. If you're a lucky sod who's a gifted writer, then just do your own thing on the day and wow the examiner with your natural flair. If, like us plebeians, this section is something you struggle with, don't worry. You can easily write a story that uses lots of big words, a variety of punctuation, and a variety of grammatical structures in advance, and just learn that story, adapting it for the exam depending on the question. I know people who used this method and saw great success, getting more than 30 out of 40 from it, well into the solid 9 territory. I know some teachers like to say that this section can't be revised for, but it absolutely can be, and you can see great results from it if you do it correctly. English literature can be approached in the same way as English language, except you also need to know your texts well. Don't be lazy. Read each book from the start to finish at least once, and annotate quotes which can be used in the exam. Also, make sure that you're aware of the themes surrounding the book, the history of the author, and the context of both the time period the book was written in and the time period the book is set in. This accounts for 20% of the marks for each essay question, so you really need to know all of this for an 8 or 9. Regarding poetry, I did AQA Power and Conflict. For the poetry section, I'd advise learning, in detail, at least one poem about war conflict, one poem about nature, and one poem about identity. You should also learn the context, meanings, and themes behind every other poem, but you don't need to know them in as much detail, as I recognise that most of you probably have more important things to do with your life than spend your time learning 16-odd poems. Doing this means that you will not be caught out by a question, as they've only ever asked about nature, war, and identity. Just as a side note, I have a lot more that I want to say about English language and literature that I could not fit into this video. If you'd like to see a video about just these two subjects, please do let me know, and if there's enough demand, I'll get one out before the exams in May. I also have a link to my Discord server in the description. This Discord server hosts lots of resources relating to English language and literature, which go really specific into the books that I studied. So please do check out that Discord server if you're still looking for more information on language and literature. Bob's method described earlier actually happened, because I'm Bob. I did exactly what Bob did in the analogy. A specification is such a cheat code for science, as it tells you what you need to know and how much detail you need to know it in. If you can cover the entire specification, then nothing at all can surprise you. The textbook notes are quite bad, but luckily physicsandmathstutor.com once again comes in clutch, with great notes for all 3 sciences. Another cheat code for science is to write a list of every possible 6-mark question they might ask you, and then attempt to answer all of them from memory. You can then check your responses and delete them all before doing this again. Do this until you get every answer right. If you do this and remember all your responses, you're far less likely to drop marks on those pain-in-the-arse 6-mark questions. Also, some of those 6-mark questions you answered will definitely come up and will be worth less marks, which means you're even better prepared to answer them than you would have been before. A 9 in history can be achieved with 3 steps. The first step is to make notes and/or flashcards for every point in the specification. The history textbooks are pretty good for this, but make sure you aren't just copying directly from the textbook so you actually retain the information you use to make notes. For key events, you should be able to recall at least the year that they took place in. The next step is to learn the exam. In the same way as English, you should know the mark scheme for every question they can ask and how to structure your response so you can hit the top band. The last step is to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications, and once you do that, the YouTube gods will be on your side and you'll be guaranteed full marks. Please don't sue me. Now I'm going to talk about Spanish here because that's what I studied, but this advice is applicable to all languages. With languages, what you put in is what you get out. It's as simple as that. Your main priority should be to know the language well. The more vocabulary you know, and the more familiar you are with the grammar, the better you'll perform in all the exams. I've linked some flashcards which contain every word on the AQA list of Spanish vocabulary, which if you can complete and remember all of, you'll be in a good position to go and get 9s. Now for the speaking exam, my main advice would just be to practice speaking. Even if you don't have anyone to practice speaking with, just responding to prompts out loud on your own is enough. The more practice you'll get, the more comfortable you'll feel in the exam and the higher score you'll get. For the writing exam, make sure you show the full extent of your knowledge of Spanish. Use the past, present and future tense at least once, and make sure not just to talk about yourself, but others too. Also, don't stick to cliched as hell words like divertido and difícil. Show the full range of adjectives you know. If you're aiming for the top grade, you should stick in a few examples of more advanced tenses, like the perfect tense and the present subjunctive. As for the reading and listening exams, not much can be done for them, unfortunately. Just make sure you practice the past papers available on the exam board website, and also make sure you know your vocabulary. Computer science. The most infuriating subject for many due to a mixture of seemingly incompetent teachers, a confusing specification, and strange mark schemes. Computer science seemed hard to me at first, but once I discovered the exam technique, I improved massively and was soon working at a 9. I think part of it is to do with poor teaching. For some reason, almost everybody seems to complain that computer science teachers are terrible at explaining things. I think definitely that mine perhaps overcomplicated the subject at times. Really, computer science is a subject where they can only ask you 2 questions: definition questions and advantages and disadvantages questions. I made flashcards for all the OCR computer science GCSE topics which cover all the definitions, advantages and disadvantages. These flashcards alone got me a level 9. I've linked these flashcards in the description, so if you want to access them, just go there. Thank you for watching my guide. I really hope you learned something from it today. It means the world to me to be able to help people. And if you found it useful, please do leave a like on the video. If you thought it was bad, leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments. Constructive criticism is definitely welcome. Any revision resource or website discussed in this video has been linked to in the description, so do have a read of that. I've also linked to my Discord server where you can ask me personally for any help that you need. Thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck for all your exams. I'm sure you're going to smash it.